Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach. This is my first video on this channel for a couple months. When Comic Artist Pro Secrets Ethan Van Sciver started doing a lot of Star Wars videos, he said, hey, you should do this too. It's pretty fun. There's a good little audience, and there was. But then I got really busy with my regular channel and regular job, and then I did an Indiegogo for my book, Jawbreakers Lost Souls, which is about to hit $350,000 tonight. That's crazy. So if you only follow me on the Splato channel, oh wow, a lot of stuff's happened since the last time I did a video. So Splato is now not just the name of YouTube, it's also the name of a comic company. There's a whole long story behind that. I had a deal, and then Mark Wade, a pro who works at Marvel, basically how do I say this? Socially influenced, interfered, and got my publisher to drop me, among others. So now I just started my own publisher, so we're still going forward with that. You can still buy the book. The description is in the link is in the description, or is the description in the link? Whoa, open your third eye to understand that joke. I mean, that woke. So anyway, this is my review of Solo. This is going to be spoiler filled, although it's a recommend. I probably shouldn't have said that, because I can literally feel the views just dropping. But I thought it was going to be bad, so I read all the spoiler filled reviews, and I didn't 100% spoil it, but I liked it. I was like, man, I kind of killed a lot of the excitement of seeing it fresh. So I would just give this a blanket recommendation. Go see it. I mean, come on, it's a Star Wars movie. Like, just go see it. And it is a good Star Wars movie. I would say it feels more like a Star Wars movie than any of the whatever these last 4 movies have been called, squeakquels or whatever they're called. The prequel? No, they're prequels, and no, they're all prequels. Are they all prequels? They're prequels, but they're not the prequels. I don't know. Whatever you call these. Force Awakens and Last Jedi are sequels. Rogue One and Solo are prequels. And then there was Alvin and the Chipmunks 3, the squeakquel, or maybe it was 2. Anyway, if you're one of those people who doesn't like spoilers, I just say nope out right now. Go see it. We saw it at Alamo Drafthouse, which is cool. They have more rules than like Soviet era Russia, but I like it. It keeps people in line, just like Soviet era Russia. But anyway, so here's where the spoilers start. First of all, Alden Ehrenreich was freaking good. I was gonna say great, and I dialed it down to good. He was very good, actually, as Solo. He was not perfect. I was actually thinking of at the end, I go, what if they would have just hired Harrison Ford and done that creepy de-aging they do on like Patrick Stewart and Tony Stark in the Marvel movies? But he was good. Most of people who know my taste in movies predicted that I would like it. And actually, you know what? I didn't get a lot of pushback for liking it. I got a ton of DMs that are like, hey, dude, like, you're going to like this. And I like it, and I don't even like your taste in movies. It's a good movie. It's a good, solid movie. And that's what it was. So Alden Ehrenreich is very good as a young Solo. Obviously, Harrison Ford is the quintessential, 35 to, 70 Solo. But Alden Ehrenreich was really good. I accepted him pretty much at the beginning as Solo, and honestly, I was not thinking about Harrison Ford very much borderline 2 at all. He didn't feel like a fake Solo. He felt like himself. This is a big deal because of all of these last 4 movies. This is the first one where it's been somebody reinterpreting. I mean, he's basically like in a lose-lose position, and he figured out how to at least lose-win, or win-lose. I would say the biggest thing against him is that he is a little guy, and I'm not sure why they went with a little guy. He starts off, when it first started, he's in an orphanage, which is a little weird because I would say he is at least 16, probably closer to 18. It's like this, like, I don't know, orphans who have to steal, kind of like Oliver Twist. But he's kind of obviously in his 20s, so it's a little weird because the other ones are like 6 to 8 to 10. But he felt like a Han Solo from the beginning. They have a good origin with this girl Kira, and that was another surprise. I was expecting. Now here's the deal: there's Kira, and then there's another surprise character, or not a surprise character. It's a character who has some surprises, and both of them bust out with the 98-year-old girl who is really good at martial arts, but it's not overemphasized, and when it happens, it's almost like a borderline goof where everyone's like, what just happened? Did a 98-pound woman just beat up like a grown man? But for whatever reason, maybe Alden Ehrenreich was just the best at auditioning, and they said, you know what, we're gonna cast a guy who's 5'7", and it would have been fine if they would have said, this is young Han Solo at the age of 14 to 15, and he's just a little weathered because he was like, grew up in a rough neighborhood. So he starts off and he's at least supposed to be, I guess, high school age. And then it cuts to an indeterminate amount later that I am really, really interested in finding out if they ever say how much time elapsed between him doing plot point A and us picking up later at plot point B. My guess is 1 to 2 years. Although it could have been much longer, and some other things wait, I forgot, I'm doing the spoiler. I forgot. This is the spoilers. Okay, so he joins the Imperial Flight Academy, gets busted down, I think, in flight school, and ends up being a basic infantryman. I loved that aspect of it. It really explains a lot of stuff in the original trilogy, why he's really down on, being a joiner, and also kind of thinking that, these big, large-scale combat operations are just big jokes. We see a officer he has talking about glory and is immediately just wiped off the face of whatever that planet was. So I thought that established him knowing the Empire, knowing their procedures, protocols, but also having a very jaundiced eye towards joining any kind of organization afterwards. So he gets separated from Kira. Kira ends up getting owned by some I forget the Crimson Dawn, Crimson Moon, something like that. And one thing, that actor, I forget his name, the guy who played the Vision, I did not realize how big he is. He was towering above everyone. I don't know if they did some manipulation of shots to make him look bigger. I don't remember him seeing, he was tall, but I always assumed Woody Harrelson was like 6 foot, and he's way taller than him. But really interesting that we don't get that much of the Empire. We see, obviously there's a scene, pretty good scene, where we see Han as a basic infantryman joining up with this gang. I forget everyone's name. All these Star Wars names, if they're not from the original trilogy, I can't remember anyone's name. I remember Dexter Jetster from episode 2. That was a memorable name, but everyone else just sounds like you're being tased while you're having an epileptic fit. Everyone just sounds like Zirpan Beep Bam. But so I'm just going to describe them as random actors or other things. But it's really, really cool how he ends up in crime. He basically just deserts in kind of like some fruitless World War I type of battle where literally the fog of war, you can't even tell what people are shooting at. He ends up with them. They pull off a pretty little interesting train heist. Thandie Newton, who's like, I've liked her ever since Mission Impossible 2. She doesn't get that much older. She just gets a little drier skinned every year. But she pretty much looks the same. She's Woody Harrelson's work wife and real wife in the movie. But there's a lot of set pieces that are just good. Like, they're fun. The whole Han as an infantryman meeting the gang, that was a fun scene. We get to figure out how he meets Chewbacca. That was great. Having introduced as the Beast who's like eating people down in this dungeon. There's some callbacks to the original trilogy. There's some weird ones. Later on, Woody Harrelson is wearing the costume that Lando wears when he infiltrates Jabba's barge, which I thought that was just a generic guard uniform for the the humanoids on that barge, but apparently not. There's good bits to Leia with the thermal detonator. In this case, it's just a rock, but then he uses it to escape from his Oliver Twist dungeon life that he lives in. What else? It was just good overall. Like, it had a good steady pace. So he ends up joining up with this gang. The big MacGuffin is hyperfuel, which is basically NOS for I was really thinking about Fast and the Furious a lot, and I think they were too when they were making it. Like, one of the things, I was talking to Zaxxon afterwards, and he loved it, and he didn't know any of the spoilers, so he liked it even more. He goes, "Why did this get bad reviews?" And I was telling him about the whole background with they hired these Lord and Robinson, something like that. Sounds like a place where you get like a pretty cool blazer. Like Lord and Robinson, I would buy a blazer for that. I would go more than $200. But I think there are two guys who did the Lego movie or something, and they hired him, and supposedly they directed like 90% of the movie, and then they got fired Marvel Comics style. Oh no, they got fired real life style. They didn't just decide they wanted to do other things in the middle of the work week. They just got told not to come on set anymore. So then they hired Opie, and you know what? I can't tell who directed what. It was solidly directed. I think the directing for the performances was the best. Like, I really believed everyone was what they were supposed to be. People had normal human emotions. I liked it. It was fun. It was exciting. Lando was the one that I had trouble seeing as Lando. In like the very first sentence he speaks, he actually does sound like the original Lando, but then after that he just does his own voice, or kind of like a take on his own voice, and he was lame. He was like in love with the robot, and the character was established as a ladies' man. Like, really, you're not going to show him being a lazy man. You're going to show him in love and crying about a robot. By the way, L33T was it's kind of like with Deadpool 2. People were saying, oh, there's these SJW moments, but I think with Deadpool 2 they were making fun of SJWs, and this one with having a super woke, like annoying, kind of like a pseudo-feminist robot, I actually was fine. I actually also was fine when she died. Like, I was like, okay, we don't have to deal with her anymore. That was one of the spoilers that probably saved the movie for me. When she was annoying, I never felt like, oh god, I'm gonna be stuck with her forever. But she does this like robot rebellion, and she tells everyone to be woke and free the other robots. I don't really think robots would free other robots. I think they would just go do whatever they were programmed for. If they were load lifters, they would go lift some loads. So at the end there's like 8 million double crosses, except for I knew every single one. So that part was a little ruined, but it was directed very well. I know I listened to parts of Comic Artist Pro Secrets, Ethan's, and a lot of the things that he had problems with I thought were just fine, because Han Solo is not supposed to be the big savior of the universe. Han Solo's whole thing is just to survive. So he was saying at the end fight, it was a 90-pound girl against a 6'5" guy, and Han kept getting his blaster knocked out of his hand, but Han's not supposed to be the big guy. He's not supposed to be the guy in the history books. He's supposed to be some, side quest guy that gets left out of the history books. So I was fine with that. I was I don't know if he really bonded that well with Chewbacca in this. They did this weird thing where it was very much a Fast and the Furious movie where everyone kind of got equal billing, but I remember liking the fights with Chewbacca more, because the guy Peter Mayhew, I think he had some tall people. They usually have a lot of like hip problems and knee problems. He never moved around like this. Like, they got some guy from Norway who's probably the average height guy in his village, and he was obviously in good health. So when he was doing fights, they looked like real fights. They weren't just like pawing at someone like Peter Mayhew had to do. He didn't have the Peter Mayhew body language down pat exactly, but he was good. He was solid. they had, I think, a female Wookiee on there that did not look good, but they kept it really dark. So the cinematography has taken some hits. I thought it was fine. It was, a war movie and then a grimy heist movie. Honestly, I thought it was good. I would have liked to see a second Solo movie with the same crew. I absolutely know I'm not going to see that, just like I absolutely know I'm not going to see a sequel to The Man from U.N.C.L.E. But this is a rewatch, for sure. They did, like I said, they did some callbacks, not that many, which I thought was nice. You didn't have to see Boba Fett. There's a reference to Jabba, but they don't say his name. You get little explanations why his pistol has a rifle sight on it, because it was originally a modular rifle, and then Woody Harrelson stripped it down for him because Woody Harrelson was super dank with pistols, so Han Solo was a little thirsty about that. Besides that, the Kessel, well, you know what? I didn't like how they did the Kessel Run. The whole thing is that Kessel Run is, in the original trilogy, they mention it as if it was a matter of time, and then someone points out later, 30 years ago, that the parsec is actually a distance. So you had to plot a course that was a shorter distance through a difficult terrain, but like they kept stopping, and then they still counted that on his elapsed time, which was weird. I would have thought that maybe he bet Lando that he could make it faster than him, and that's how he won the ship. The ship was good. It was interesting seeing it like in a earlier version where the leather on the inside was white instead of kind of yellowed. I actually didn't notice how it had like this in the cutout in the front. It had something in there, and then somehow in the movie it got knocked out. I actually did notice. I just noticed at the end when it was gone. But honestly, I kind of felt like it was totaled at the end. Like they crashed or kind of scrape landed a couple times, and the hull took some damage, but I guess the superstructure is solid as hell. It must be made out of the same thing that Wolverine's skeleton is made of. So, man, I'm stuck behind a bus. Come on now. 1-800, come on now. So, besides that, it was very busy. Like, a lot of stuff happened. There was always something happening in the movie. So, I never got bored. I also never did the thing I do in Marvel movies where when a lot of stuff's happening, my mind just starts to drift off, and I kind of like wake up while I'm already awake, and I go, oh, why are they here? When did they meet Doctor Strange? Why are they in space? Why is Spider-Man with them in space? Like, I was never like that. I was following it the whole time. It was good. It was definitely a recommend. I'd say I loved it. It felt more like a Star Wars movie than the other three last movies. I think probably because it didn't reference the Star Wars. Weirdly enough, not talking about the Star Wars movies makes it seem more of like a Star Wars movie. It's just people doing regular stuff in their life in the Star Wars universe, and you'd see a Star Destroyer and they'd literally say that's a Star Destroyer, but it wasn't over the top. One weird thing actually at the beginning, there's this kind of like an airport, and there's a lot of people in Stormtrooper uniform, and I noticed like they didn't fit very well. Like it felt like they didn't tighten it down. Like you were seeing it was kind of loose on their bodies and it wasn't strapped in. Usually it tended to be like a very tight looking uniform, whereas it didn't seem like that in this movie. But all right, I'm here in downtown. Sheesh. I haven't been downtown Corpus in a while. This looks like it took some hits. But anyway, tell me what you think about this video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed here. I'm still doing like 3 videos a day on diversity in comics. It's funny, I haven't done a video on this channel in like a month, or actually like 2 or 3, and like it's still going up. I'm not sure why. But tell me if you want to, since this was a driving video and it was a little rushed and I was a little scatterbrained, tell me in the comments if you want me to comment on, like, do specialty videos on this aspect or that aspect of this Solo movie. I'm definitely interested in talking about it some more. I'll probably see it again in theaters. I think I will. So thanks for watching, and if you're interested in my comic book work, go to the description. I've got a link there, and you can go check out my book Jawbreakers Lost Souls. It's kind of Expendables meets Avengers. I think you'll like it. We got a really, really good artist who would be great on a Han Solo comic. Thanks for watching, and I'll have more. Well, I have more. I have videos every day on my main channel. Me having more on this channel will depend on if people want to see me talk about Solo some more. Thanks for watching. Bye.